One thing that I could say are movies that have an intimate setting or intimate space while filming freak me out. The reason being is because my brain is going like 1,000 miles a minute trying to figure out where are the exits. I need to get out of there. And being an introvert, that is one thing that would bug me out, and somebody who's also quite claustrophobic. So movies that are set in these intimate spaces can be terrifying. So I'm going to go over a few of them. Let's take a look at 1408. 1408, a movie based on a book by Stephen King, was one of my favorite horror movies to watch. And 1408 was scary because it was intimate. It was set in a hotel room. And me being somewhat claustrophobic, I don't like staying in one place, either small spaces or a place for too long. I need to be able to get out and breathe fresh air. So for John Cusack's character, Mike Ensling, he is a writer and he gets an invitation to 1408, the Hotel the Dolphin, and he goes to 1408. The owner, Mr. Gerald Owen, tells him stay out of that room. But it's enticing because Ensling wants to know more about this supposedly haunted hotel room. So being a skeptic, he goes there anyway. And, Owen says, you know what, it's your funeral. You go right ahead. So he goes into the room, and the caution from Gerald Owen, the owner, says to him, no one can last in this room more than an hour. And John Cusack's character, Mike Ensling, is like, you're on, I don't believe this anyway. So he has become obsessed with death because sadly his daughter's passing has affected him. So he's going around disproving spirits and anything spiritual or supernatural. So he goes to this hotel room. It looks normal, even upon approach and entering, he's like, is this it? So when he gets inside, he learns that it's more that meets the eye with the hotel room. He's essentially, there's a clock counting down, and he gets essentially trapped inside. The events that followed after he becomes trapped inside, he sees spirits. There's not just hauntings, they're actually physically interacting with him, pushing him around the room, making him think he's crazy. Elements change within the room, like cold weather, snow, water, flooding, all kinds of craziness. And the premise of this is him trying to survive within the terror that is this room, which has become, sadly, his tomb. So 1408 was so scary because we've all been to older hotels that have this character, this eerie feeling about it, that it's been around for a while. So, them taking us on this journey with this character, him being a writer and not believing in ghosts, to actually physically being assaulted by ghosts and seeing these horrible things, it just blows you out of the water. So that was one of my favorites. Another movie that's set in an intimate setting that I found creepy was Devil. Now, Devil was different. M. Night Shyamalan brought this fear to life. I don't like small spaces. Again, I said I'm quite claustrophobic. Not severely, but I do panic when I get in small spaces. So for me to see these strangers enter an elevator and be stuck, it was unnerving. It's a small space. So for a director or, person to shoot this scene and it's only happening in this one small space, I give it kudos because you have to be inventive. You have to be a good writer for the characters to be able to interact with each other. There's this airy supernatural element, and sandwich that all together and make it work. So for no one to be able to escape this area, I found it chilling. 5 people are trapped on an elevator and they just think that it's a typical day. However, everything happens for a reason. With these 5 strangers trapped in this small space, things start to pop off. Now, M. Night Shyamalan, I liked that he was filming the movie itself in such a small space. You saw what was going on, of course, outside of the high-rise building, with the city and people coming to the rescue of these people who are trapped. But what it brings in is that it plays upon your fears. For some people, it's claustrophobia, like me. It is fear of the dark. I don't like dark spaces either. And you're sandwiched in with these 5 people, and it's not just typically 5 strangers. They all have something in common, and it's being revealed to them. And this supernatural evil force is making them turn on each other, making them suspect each other. And when you put people in that type of environment, it's kind of like a pressure cooker, and their behaviors and attitudes and primal instinct for survival comes out. So it was interesting to see how the characters interacted with each other, and how they were more or less pit against each other, and how they're trying to, resolve or find a way out of this situation. So I really enjoyed that. The dark elements, the malevolent spirit that's there, or a supernatural force, the being, people jumping off the building. It was just so much going on, and it gave you this eerie feeling. And what I loved about M. Night Shyamalan, he's very different with his directing, because his films always have an undertone, either about some type of message to learn, something to solve and figure out, and things are not what they seem. So his movie always has a twist to it, and some people don't enjoy it, but I myself do. So with this setting and being in the elevator, it really made you think about, what if these are your last moments? These are the people you're going to be spending time with. Are you able to work together to come out of this predicament, or figure out exactly what's going on? So that was one of the reasons why I like Double. The other movie I like that's set in an intimate setting is Paranormal Activity. The hauntings take place in a house. And over the course of all of the Paranormal Activity movies, they all take place in somebody's home. And your home is this intimate space that is for your comfort. It is your solace. It is your haven to run to. And for it to be taken over by a supernatural presence, you be haunted, and the spirit is so malicious that you're trying to figure out how to leave and what to do, and it's keeping you there. So I thought that was scary. It was scary. And as a person who sees spirits, seeing that on film, there were some scary moments in that film that still stick with me. For example, and if you haven't seen this movie, again, these are spoilers, but there was a scene when the girl was in the kitchen, I think, and the sheet underneath, it looked like a person. And then the sheets just disappeared, and whatever was there wasn't there. It was just clearly a spirit. It wasn't a person. And it was a little sheet, so it looked like it was in the form of a child. So obviously there's a child spirit in the house too. So I thought that Paranormal Activity did so well with having this family in their family home. The first Paranormal Activity was with Micah, and I forgot the girl's name that was in there. And it started with them, and then the other movies that followed carried on the history of everything. And I thought just being in your bedroom, being in the privacy of your own home, these cameras. And one thing I like about movies like this is kind of has that found footage feel to it. So it feels like the reviewer or the person watching the movie is seeing it through the character's eyes, in a sense, or seeing something that the character can't see looking through at this footage. So I thought it was nicely done. It creeped me out again because it took place in a regular apartment or a regular home, and through the course of the films, it took place there. So Paranormal Activity definitely on my list. The next movie that I saw that felt like that or had that feel too, but there was some movement, but it was still in a smaller setting, was definitely As Above, So Below. Now, As Above, So Below, I would not rate it high on my list of movies to see. However, the whole vibe of underground, visiting the catacombs, you're just asking for trouble. You really are. And going into the depths of that. And it kind of feels like the woods, but you're exploring and you're going further and further into the belly of the beast. So I think that movie, there's no place to run to. You have to get above ground, but you're lost. So you're you're essentially going further into your own tomb and sealing your own fate by being down there in the first place. One for the books is definitely Aliens, but specifically Alien because it's on a ship. There's no place to run. You're in outer space and there's an alien on board, and you have to figure out how to survive and not bring it back to Earth. So there's a lot of things to consider within this movie, and not a lot of places to hide, or you have to be brave, put on your big girl or big boy pants and fight this thing. So I thought Aliens did a really good job of that, and using that intimate setting of the ship, even though it's not this gigantic place, but being so isolated because you're in space and there's nowhere to run. Next movie that I thought did a good job with this is Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is one of my favorite horror movies. It's on the list somewhere, but I liked it because it was fun and it was different, because it took you on this ride, to just this thrill ride with these friends, and they go and they're hanging out at the cabin, they're getting drunk and having a good time, and it wasn't exactly what it seemed. So for it to take you from this space where the friends are having a good time, and it's funny how they have them as tropes. And as a writer, I was able to pick up on, okay, that's the jock. That's the cheerleader, the popular girl. That's the maybe guy that's not getting laid or whatever. He's with his friends and maybe he's like he's a drab or whatever. I really like Cabin in the Woods because it was filmed within the cabin. Of course, again, there were things happening outside of it, but with the main characters, they were all in one small space, one intimate space. And the characters found out, they found a diary and they read from the diary, and the diary in turn caused these things to come to life. Come to find out, it was actually a puppet master type situation where everything was controlled by tech. And the technology coupled with these actual monsters that existed, everything got out of hand. But I really enjoyed it because you didn't have a lot to focus on. It was just the friends, the cabin, how are they going to get out of this situation, which I really enjoyed. Another one on my list is The Shining. The Shining with Jack Nicholson. It was really good. Classic, one of my faves. Him working at the Overlook Hotel. Although the hotel is so massive, there are quite a few scenes that are shot in just like the room or the bar area. So it gives, although it's a big place, it gives the illusion that it's a small, intimate, contained setting. So I really enjoyed the characters. Jack Nicholson, top notch in that movie. Very scary, very dark. And just being in, filling the shoes and being that family in that place. And Jack is the caregiver for the place, as his wife and his child, they're just there as guests. And for him and I think to be so isolated in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, you're gonna go a little nuts because there's nothing else to do. But of course he went off the deep end. So it was really nice to see his character go through these phases of he's trying to write and nothing's coming to him and he was losing his mind, and with his family and the haunting of the hotel and so on. So I like that. Although it was a big place, it felt small. Another movie that I enjoyed similar to that was Get Out. Get Out was isolated. It was in a home in the middle of the woods. The character, he has his girlfriend. They go to visit her parents, and he just thinks that it's just a normal visit until he sees that something is totally wrong. The way that the help are acting at the house, they're acting weird and not all there. And for him to see experience some supernatural stuff and tap it into his past trauma with his mother's death and all these things, he learns that he's not there as just, at a boyfriend capacity. He's actually there to be added into their family. And what I like about Jordan Peele with Get Out is it's unsuspecting. It's very unsuspecting for the person watching the movie. You're not quite sure what's happening yet, but it unravels. And when it does, it's something that you didn't think of. It's insane. So I like the whole sci-fi vibe. I like the horror vibe. And lastly on my list for intimate movie settings is 40 Days of Night. Although it is a small town, you get the vibe that it's an isolated location. The Thing also captured this too, where it's snowing. It's, I guess, Alaska, and you're getting, it's nighttime hours and vampires are out in full effect. And for this particular one, there's nowhere to run. There's a storm, it is nighttime, no one is coming to your rescue. The village or the town is being overrun by vampires, and I thought that was scary in itself. When I see movies like that where it feels hopeless, there's nowhere to go, I love movies like that because it's the edge of your seat. Like, what are they going to think of next? You know, how are they going to outrun these vampires? How are they going to survive? So when I see movies like that with these intimate settings and it feels like all hope is lost, those are the type of movies that I get invested in, because I'm, in my mind as the viewer, I'm thinking, how am I going to handle this situation? It makes you think, and it puts you fully invested with the characters. So let me know in the comment section, what is your favorite scary movie with an intimate setting, whether it's a small town, a room, a building, an area, and let me know what you think about the movies that I just talked about.